As someone who tries their damnedest to watch and recommend movies most people miss, I do watch a lot of new releases, but I often don't talk about them until they show up on popular streaming services. But in this episode, I'm going to recommend the most surprising flicks of the year so far, and I've got a feeling several of my top picks will catch you by surprise.
Welcome aboard.
But my bottom pick on this list is a disturbing horror movie titled Bring Her Back. This is the new film from the directors of Talk to Me, a horror movie that I thought was just totally inventive, new, and fresh. I loved it. I mean, the guys that created it even started off as YouTubers, so I even enjoyed that part of the backstory. It was very much looking forward to their next film, and Bring Her Back is an exceptional horror movie. The only reason it's at the back of my list, though, is because of how disturbing it is, and I did not find much of it to be entertaining at all. Whereas Talk to Me had kind of a spark and this lively energy, I found Bring Her Back to be just entirely disturbing and dour. And a lot of Bring Her Back's success hinges on the performance from Sally Hawkins. She just gives an incredible performance in this movie. I would say, big fans of the Babadook, I think you're going to find a lot to love with Bring Her Back. If you're not really into horror, though, my goodness, is this movie going to freak you out. And I gotta say, as someone who has not been excited for a Marvel movie in I don't know how long, it's been since I was excited for one, I took my kids to see the new Fantastic Four, and I was pleasantly surprised. Not because it was mind-blowing or some new paradigm shift, but it was a fairly wholesome, family-friendly action-adventure movie, something that they just don't put in theaters that much anymore. I mean, it honestly felt kind of like a throwback 90s movie with all these big sets. Like, they sort of abandoned the digital screen idea for this movie, and as a result, it looks and feels like something from my childhood, or at least looks a lot more like it than a lot of modern movies do, and it also felt a lot like The Incredibles, which is like one of my favorite Pixar movies. So I found a lot to enjoy with this one as a family watch. But one to definitely not watch with the family, one that I almost made a mistake by watching with my wife, is Dangerous Animals.
And action! Tell me that ain't the greatest show on earth.
Now, this one's getting a lot of hype solely for Jai Courtney's performance. Now, I'll say, even if you've never been a big fan of his, he's great in this movie. I mean, really, a standout role from him for me was Captain Boomerang in the Suicide Squad. It was like my favorite character from that movie. He's kind of doing something a little bit similar here, except he is a crazy serial killer that kills people with sharks. That's the setup for the movie. It's not a twist. It is what they market this movie with in the trailers. If you want to see that kind of a movie, Dangerous Animals satisfies. Now, it didn't do much else for me. It's top quality, it's freaky, it's wild, it's got some crazy scenes in it, but it didn't break the genre or do anything too new and different. I will say, though, it's from the director of The Loved Ones, another horror flick from Australia. I did not know that when I went to watch it with my wife. We start watching it, I notice who directed it, and I start to get very nervous that it's going to be too disturbing for her. I will say, this one skirted the line. It's not nearly as disturbing as The Loved Ones was. But my next pick is more disturbing than The Loved Ones was in a very surprising way. It also has a surprising story structure in Warfare. Now, anyone that has seen it is probably already chuckling because there is really no story in Warfare. Not in the traditional sense. Rather, this is a recreation of an actual event, and what makes this much more interesting is one of the guys there in the room helped direct this movie. Alongside director Alex Garland, who's famous for films like Ex Machina, Annihilation, most recently Civil War, but he's also famous for writing bangers like 28 Days Later and Sunshine. And Ray Mendoza, again, who was there on the ground during this event, he also co-created the film Act of Valor. So this film has a very unique backstory. I thought it had a fantastic cast. It's not overly dramatized. It just is showing you this raw, real military incursion with like severe consequences. I mean, this is a brutal movie, but it puts you in the room with these guys and it feels so authentic. That is what's so amazing about Warfare, is it does not feel like you're watching a movie. It feels like you're watching something that's actually happening. Now, some people were disappointed by that. They feel like the film should have had more to say. There are plenty of films that have strong things to say about Warfare. I was personally surprised and appreciated the fact that Warfare didn't say much. Now, my next recommendation takes an almost entirely separate approach. It's got a very calm, relaxed filmmaking style, yet it is showing you something wild and putting you in a place you've never been before. It's the latest film from Steven Soderbergh, Presence. Now, you can already see this one included on Hulu, and the interesting thing about it is it's entirely filmed from a first-person perspective, yet this first person is some sort of spirit. So the camera is essentially drifting around the house, and that's the only point of view you ever get in this entire movie, yet you, the viewer, assume the role of this presence that cannot speak, yet it finds ways to communicate with the other people in the house. And it's a really freaky experience. Now, ultimately, I will warn you, Presence goes to a very dark, disturbing place, but it's an excellent, haunting movie done from a completely different perspective, and I was blown away by how effective this simple little gimmick was. Fair warning, like I said, this movie is a very slow burn, but if you're into the filmmaking style here, this is just an exceptional watch that has a lot of moments in it that will totally take you by surprise. All right, now my next recommendation is for people who have seen the sketch comedy show on Netflix, I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson. It's titled Friendship, and it's the latest film from Tim Robinson.
You're smart. You have a good job. There's nothing to be nervous about. Just be yourself. You're a freaking prince.
Now, it is a full feature film with a full narrative, but it's got a lot of similar qualities to his sketch show. I do think it's a bit more accessible than his sketch show, but honestly, if you were into his show at all, you need to pursue this movie. I found it to be totally hilarious, but it's a very specific brand of comedy. He plays a guy who develops a man crush on his neighbor, played by Paul Rudd. When they have a falling out, his life just begins to unravel. So this has touches of Curb Your Enthusiasm, but it's got a lot more absurdist humor crammed in there. Just absolutely hilarious stuff for people with that really specific brand of humor. But if you've got it, this movie's worth paying to see. Now, I already mentioned how Alex Garland wrote the original 28 Days Later. Well, he actually returned with director Danny Boyle to write 28 Years Later, the latest flick in that series, a movie that I thought really was kind of amazing and surprised me in a bunch of ways. But it also failed to meet any sort of expectations that I had, and it left me feeling a little bit disappointed and confused. Yet, hear me out, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing in this case. Now, this movie steps things up quite a bit. It is visually breathtaking. Now, I loved the fast-paced, grungy style of the original movie, but this new one just has some absolutely breathtaking visuals in it, some that I will just probably remember forever. I mean, if you've seen the movie, there's a moment in the middle of the film that you probably know what I'm talking about. So that surprised me. Some of the new elements to the zombie apocalypse that you're living in, right? This is 28 years in the future. Some of those elements surprised me, but where this story ended up, it just defied any and all expectations. Now, it was in a way that sort of disappointed me, but looking back, I also really appreciated what this movie ultimately had to say. It did not fulfill my expectations the way so many sequels try to do. No, this really went for saying something different, and ultimately I totally appreciated what it said and the fact that it didn't do what I expected. Now, for honorable mentions, I had a fun time with Fight or Flight. Josh Hartnett in this flick is fighting a bunch of assassins on an airplane. It's a setup I feel like I've seen countless times. Maybe it's in a different location with some different people. A lot of punching, hitting, and kicking, but it's still clever and fun and almost as much fun as Bullet Train. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is one of my honorable mentions. Believe it or not, it didn't make the top 10 list. Now, me and my wife love the Mission Impossible movies. I've loved every single one of them. And I gotta say, this final one, I think, had two of the best stunt sequences in the entire series. Yet, I feel like I had to wade through a lot of sludge just to get to those two sequences. Now, this is a movie I will watch again. The final sequence on the biplane is the best stunt sequence in a Mission Impossible movie, maybe in a movie ever. I was blown away by it. But along the way, it's technically the 8th movie. They had to do a lot of stuff I've seen them do multiple times in the other movies just to get there, and it's not nearly as interesting at this point. They also did some nods to the first movie I wasn't a huge fan of. That said, though, the stunt work, unbelievable. The movie, I could almost take it or leave it at this point. And then, as sort of a warm-up for the new Predator movie coming out soon, Hulu released an animated anthology flick titled Predator: Killer of Killers. I would say if you're a fan of Predator, you gotta see these, or even if you just really like Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix, check this out. They're a ton of fun, they're bloody, full of action. There's a Viking chapter, a samurai chapter, and one with like a World War II fighter pilot, and more. Like, there's a lot crammed into this, and it's just awesome for Predator fans. Believe it or not, I loved the new John Wick spinoff, Ballerina. Now, I will say I'm a big fan of Ana de Armas. I was excited to see her join the world of John Wick, yet Ballerina feels like a legit John Wick movie. It doesn't really feel like a spinoff. He's actually in it a fair amount, but I thought she did awesome, and she's not just whipping the crap out of everybody she sees. She's way smaller than almost every person she's up against, like way smaller. So she actually has to improvise quite a bit throughout the entire movie, which gives you great sequences like a grenade fight, a flamethrower fight. She's got to kind of keep her distance, and it just opened up an array of different fighting styles we've yet to see in the John Wick world, and we've seen a lot of fighting styles in the John Wick world. I'm just saying, Ballerina was a welcome addition to the series. They did a way better job with that than I would have ever expected. Now, my number 2 pick, one of my absolute favorite movies of the year so far, might surprise you. It's also based on a true story. It's titled Last Breath.
I will come back for you, but you have to get yourself back to the top. I can't rescue you if I can't find you. Understand? Just make sure I'm alive.
This stars Woody Harrelson and is the true story of deep-sea divers that become trapped hundreds of feet below the surface of the ocean during a massive storm, and the second half of this movie becomes a race to save somebody's life. And I'm talking about an intense race against time, and a very well-directed, well-crafted movie to boot. It never feels over the top, it always feels very grounded, but it's this harrowing story. Another movie similar to this I highly, highly recommend is 13 Lives. It's a Prime Video original movie about those boys that got trapped in the cave. It is just like you cannot even breathe while you watch that movie. The same thing goes for Last Breath. This movie also does a great job of explaining how dangerous this job is, working deep at the ocean floor. And they tell you all the little details you need to know to understand like how much danger they're actually in. If you love the movie The Abyss, this is a lot like that, just, without any aliens. But my number 1 pick, easily the most exciting movie I've seen in a very long time. In fact, I've been itching to get back to the theater to see it. I don't think it's quite going to happen because it's almost available at home. It's also the first Apple original movie that I thought was truly a good film. F1. Now, I've just had a hard time getting into the movies from Apple. I think they do a great job with their TV series, and then their movies have just disappointed me one after the other. F1 totally surprised me. Now, it shouldn't be that much of a surprise. I love almost every movie Brad Pitt does, but this was something special. I mean, it's not just a racing movie, even though the race sequences are very exciting. The way that they crafted them, though, made them that exciting. This isn't just about trying to get first place. They explain so many little intricate details as to how he's trying to get them to place higher, and it's just a wild, fun ride. Of course, it's fast-paced, it's a bit loud. It's got some predictable, formulaic elements as well, but it's just a solid, well-rounded, in honestly, just truly exciting movie. I love movies like this that just get you on the edge of your seat and get you pumped up and excited, and there's just not that many of them anymore. We get maybe one a year. F1 is the one for 2025. Here's a recap of the list along with where you can currently stream them. But keep in mind, unlike usual here on this channel, these are all new releases. These are going to be coming available at home more and more in the coming months. They'll also be added to some of your favorite streaming services over time. If you got any recommendations off this list, definitely leave the video a like. It does help more than you would think. I'll be making more videos like this in the very near future, so subscribe to see those. But thanks for watching this one, and you will see me on the next one.